The first-person melee genre of games is actually rather small. Lots of games in first-person have melee weapons, but are usually reserved for backups or alternative choices rather than dedicated options, and usually have to compete with guns. Other games like Skyrim, or games like it, are primarily melee-focused but lack any real depth to the combat. Games like Chivalry, Chivalry 2, and Mordhau are the only real exceptions. However, there are some options that could fit in, like Mountain Blade, Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, and even War of the Roses, a game I wanted to play, but then it was shut down before I could, much to my own dismay. After Mordhau and Chivalry 2, a lot of new game startups have begun, such as Sinis, which looks like Mordhau, Renown, which looks like Mordhau, but in Rust, Mobius, which is like Mordhau, but free to play, and Contingent, which looks like Big Mordhau. Starting to notice a trend. While I don't mean to downplay the effort going into those games that I just listed, Chivalry 2 impresses me by being the only game so far with a unique combat system, as Mordhau is a badly made version of Chivalry 1's combat system, and most games I see coming out are Mordhau but blank. And while this isn't to write off any of those games, I'm looking and waiting for a game to make its own combat system that isn't tied to the mistakes and inherent flaws of previous games. Luckily, some people I know, some of which are my friends, are working on an Unreal Engine 5 game under their company, Head On Studios. They've been working on it for quite some time, about 3 years now, and have been keeping it quiet for quite a long time, not wanting to show off anything until it's ready to impress. The details of this game, named Ad Mortem, are pretty quiet. We don't know much about it yet, but these are really smart people, and their approach to designing this game feels really professional rather than an indie game. They haven't shown off any work-in-progress content or anything that might muck up their reputation, but I really respect that, because I bet they're really eager to impress. They just launched their Discord and new website, which brought with it more information and some pictures. So what do we know about the game so far? It has a pretty involved lore. You're some kind of Dark Souls hollow type. You know, kind of like a zombie who can't die. And the place you're in kind of sucks. I think the word for this is low fantasy rather than high fantasy. The story goes that in the land of Contrara, everyone is grooving and having a pretty decent time after the Inhabitant War, but then some monsters named the Entropy start making everyone's lives miserable. Queen Kezia II was visited in the night by an ethereal figure, so I'm assuming some sort of ghost or something, bearing a stone tablet with a bunch of rules on it. If they follow the rules of the tablet, they won't get owned and can actually live and not suffer. She accepts, and Kezia expands her kingdom and absorbs neighboring ones into her rule, forming the Palisadians. If you disagree with the rules, you get thrown out, and probably killed by monsters. Then, an exiled scholar gets thrown out for not following the rules. But he doesn't get killed, and he learns how to manipulate the entropy with some sort of magic power. He starts offering protection to the outcasts and pariahs of the Palisadians, and he creates his own settlement, taming the beasts of entropy, and giving them the name of Puritines, forming a Hantry faction. The Palisadians keep getting bigger and bigger, absorbing further kingdoms and expanding their walls, but they eventually decide they want to get rid of the entropy altogether, while the Hantry want to hang out with the monsters and be monster fuckers. You play as a Vessel, which is a Dark Souls hollow type of character. You can't die, and every time you're killed, you will resurrect. You fight for either the Palisadians or the Hantry. I really like that the lore ties your inevitable hundreds or thousands of deaths that you're going to be experiencing when you play to sort of tie in the gameplay. Dark Souls did that, and I really liked the way it felt. I hope they take more inspiration from Dark Souls storytelling and create some really strong narratives, because that's something a lot of the other Melee games simply won't have and haven't had. Chivalry is the closest thing, and it really doesn't have too much involvement a lot of the time. It almost feels like in Chivalry 2 they just gave up on the lore. People just kind of do things in Chivalry. As for the game itself, this is a competitive focused game, but don't worry, if you winced at the idea of that, there's a lot more here too focused on non-competitive things. First off, they have their ranked 5v5 mode, and with an actual matchmaking system to make sure it's a pretty even skill level, both teams, and with their custom Smurf account detection technology, which I assume means it's going to try its best not to let you cheat and go kick a bunch of new players. There will be some casual game modes like Last Team Standing, Team Deathmatch, and Free-For-All with no MMR. You will have attack and defense modes, which I assume is similar to Team Objective from Chivalry 1 and 2. Attacking key settlements and locations through a series of non-linear objectives, using your unique skills and strengths as part of a team of 5 to crush their heroes and thwart their plans. What's interesting about this statement is having it be 5v5 again, but having attack and defense modes. It makes me curious if there will be some sort of AI presence. We know the game is going to have AI because it also has 5-player co-op, and with its own lore. Far away, there is a citadel ruled by a misbegotten king. This king strikes a deal with deities, promising some sort of godhood. When he makes that deal, he gets some sort of magic power, but also gets turned into a monster, and he looks like shit. So now he's pissed and he wants revenge. He offers money and magic to anyone who wants to help him get revenge. You and 4 friends invade the dimension of deities who beat the shit out of, assumedly, anything you can find. Ad Mortem boasts its AI here, saying that it adapts and learns, and taking the deep, expressive combat in a new direction, shaped by their knowledge and experience in the genre. Finally, some smaller details. The game boasts that it offers long-term progression and leaderboards, if you care about that sort of thing. I tend to not care so much about leaderboards, but then I look on the Chivalry Stats website, linked down below in the description, and it tells me that I'm the #1 rapier player, and that kind of makes me at least a little bit happy, so I guess I do care a little bit about leaderboards, but not really, I guess. I don't know. The game confirms there will be 8 classes, 4 for each team, but the website only reveals 2 of the 8. The first one is the Slayer, which is a knight who has armor, because, knights do that, and a versatile weapon selection of both nimble and devastating alike. To me, this sounds like a very generalist class, and I'm going to hope they make it more interesting. I feel like generalist classes are usually either bad or too good, and I would much rather have class diversity closer to Team Fortress 2 if you pretend Sniper doesn't exist. The second class is the Brute, which is a big guy with a big shield, equipped with gruesome one-handers and assumedly a very strong defense. There are some other details about Ad Mortem, one of which comes from the developers, who said that there's no stamina, giving some hint that the gameplay here is entirely different to other games in the same genre. Other details are covered in their FAQ in their Discord. For example, Ad Mortem will only be coming to Steam on PC currently. It's been in development for just over 3 years, 8 classes, but 4 for each team, which sort of implies that there's a bit of asymmetrical to these classes. That's speculation on my part. The game can be played solo in co-op, even though it's recommended to be played with friends. I will probably have fun playing this solo myself. There will be no dedicated archers or ranged classes, but there will be ranged elements. There will be a Kickstarter at some point, and will feature both alpha and beta tiers. And if you, watching this video, don't feel like gambling with Kickstarter, then you will be happy to know I will cover this game plenty on my channel, provided they allow me to stream and record. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure to do that, wink wink. There will be mod support, and their game was coded with mod support in mind, but they're not sure when mod support will be released for the game. Given that they're making the game with mod support in mind for the future, it will be likely seamless to implement and not very difficult to do so without too many bugs, which is very exciting to hear because most mod support in games is an afterthought. It's not something they make with the game in mind, it's something they tack on later, so it usually has a lot of problems and difficulties and a very small feature set. If this game has good mod support, I feel like that'll be a huge boost to the game, like years from its release. And for anyone interested in game development, there are actually open positions you could apply for. I'll throw the email that you should contact in the description as well, along with the link to their website and their Discord. Be sure to join my Discord while you do, wink wink. And that's about it for Ad Mortem currently. There's no set release date. They'd like the game to be finished before it's out. Very good idea, in my opinion. So here are my thoughts. This game, again, is made by several of my friends, and I respect them a lot. I think everybody working on the game is a pretty smart person. I think they're all very professional, and I think they're all very well put together, which is a good thing to see. They all seem to care a lot also, and I'm really happy to see that a game is being made with pure passion in mind. Obviously, they want to make money, but they're not setting out to make the game because of money. They're setting out to make the game because they're so fucking pissed off and frustrated with every other game sucking dick. The only reason this game exists is because the head of the studio, Giru, was Mordhau's top player, and he was just not happy with it. You know, he wanted the game to be good, similar to how I wanted Chivalry 2 to be really good. I wanted to work with Torn Banner to make Chivalry 2 good, and they just were not interested in that, I guess. And Giru sort of did the same thing, not being involved with development, but being sort of there, and a lot of things just got passed over, and the game just sort of fell apart, and now Mordhau is what it is. It's a fucking failure, and Giru went to go make his own game, and he learned how to code from scratch, apparently. He didn't have any previous experience, and apparently he's very good at it, from what I've been told. Huge respect to that, and I can only pray and hope for the best, because I also want a good Melee game. I wanted Mordhau to be good. I was very disappointed with it. So was everybody else. And I'm hoping he can make the game that he really wants, which is probably the game that everybody else also wants. A good game. A good one. That said, I have not played Ad Mortem yet. I'm going to make that very clear. I have not played this game. I have not seen any gameplay of this game. So I am trying my best to not get too excited. I have a firm belief that you should not get excited about a game before you see gameplay of it. Especially with all the fake gameplay that AAA studios show off, and then they release a game that nobody fucking likes, and everybody bought it anyway, so that it's a success for them. But it's really hard for me not to be excited for Ad Mortem. Frankly, I'm sold on it already. I just need to see or play it to become a full-time shill. I feel as excited about this game as I did for Chivalry 2 during its alpha, and I can only hope that I don't see the same garbage happen again this time. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys are as excited about this game as I am. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I do read every comment. I can probably discuss it with you guys. Even if this video is kind of old, I'll still see comments. And I can respond to just about anything that I think is worth discussing. Like the video, the YouTube algorithm really likes that. I urge you to give my other videos a try, and I hope I can impress and that you stick around. Thanks.